Are you a thinker, a fixer, a doer, or do you tend to catastrophize situations? I'm Alice Autumn Strange, and today I'm going to be talking about why you don't actually have to change the way you naturally are. You just have to find a healthy way to do it. Why would you want to do this? First of all, it makes healing easier. You can work with yourself. You don't have to work against yourself. And it's also the more compassionate and loving way to approach things. Hi, if you don't know me, I'm Alice Autumn Strange. I'm a psychic, energy worker, and spirit coach, and I'm dedicated to guiding individuals through challenging times. By integrating psychology with spirituality, I overcame severe mental illness, ultimately discovering full recovery and empowerment within my practice and myself. If you'd like to learn more, just follow my channel, send me a message, we can talk. All my links are in the description. Take care, love yourself, and remember, you don't have to do it alone. So first we'll talk about overthinking. I tend to be an overthinker myself, and the difference between overthinking and deep thinking is very important. Overthinking is kind of paralyzing. You tend to be stuck, you might be in a thought loop, you might feel anxious or scattered, but deep thinking helps you take action, and it feels more grounded. You may feel calm or curious or even excited about things when you're deeply thinking about them. In the end, it'll lead to healthy action. But there are a lot of strengths that come with being an overthinker naturally. You tend to be very self-aware, and people like us tend to really self-reflect a lot, and we have a deep understanding for a lot of things that some people just don't. So if you feel like you might be an overthinker, what you really want to do is switch from overthinking to deep thinking. Find a way to make it grounded, healthy, calm, and fun. Before we get into the solutions of what you can do if you tend to be an overthinker, let's discuss what causes overthinking. Often, overthinking is caused by a lack of trust in ourselves. And that's kind of a harsh thing to say, but it's kind of true. But the fact is, as an overthinker or a deep thinker, you're actually pretty well prepared for situations because you're always thinking about them. So here are a few solutions you can try if you tend to be an overthinker. The first thing you got to ask yourself, and this might be an eye roll, you might have heard this 1,000 times, but this has really helped me, is ask yourself, can I control this? Right, of course. If you can control the thing you're trying to think about, then allow yourself to think about that. Not in an anxious, scattered, stressed way, but in a grounded way to prepare yourself. And if you can't control the thing you're worrying about, redirect that thought. Just redirect it. Redirect it to something that you can control. So, for example, if you're worried about a party that's coming up, rather than worrying about what the guests will say and what they'll do, focus on the things you can control. You can control what activities are at the party, what foods are at the party. Focus on the elements that you have control over to influence the thing that you're worrying about. And if there's absolutely nothing else that you can do to control a situation, maybe you're just worried about someone you know and how they're feeling, how they're acting, what they're doing. The thing you can control in that situation is you and how you react and how you think about it and how you feel about it. So rather than stressing about all the things that you can't control, focus on, at the very least, what you do within yourself in reaction to that. The second solution for overthinking is meditation. I know you hear it all the time, but meditation honestly is so grounding. It can be so wonderful. There are so many types of meditations out there that you can try, especially for controlling worry or anxiety. And honestly, meditation is a way to approach your thoughts with a more detached, a more distanced, calm perspective. And often we're overthinking and worrying because we're kind of believing all of the anxious thoughts. That fear comes from believing those anxious thoughts. So find calm, find a moment to be grounded, and separate those thoughts out. And with peace, examine them, think about them, because that's your strength, thinking, and then just find a way to detach from that worry and evaluate them. Meditation is a great environment to just find peace around something that you wouldn't normally find. The fourth solution for overthinking is create a new story. You have amazing brain power. You overthinker, you. You have so much brain power. You're running a million thoughts at a time, and the imagination is a tool of creation. It is a tool that we can create so many things with. And think of all the stories that you've created, right? Stories that may seem fantastical, stories that you wouldn't normally believe. You've created so many stories that you fully, wholeheartedly believed. So make one that is grounded, make one that is calm. Create a story that is positive. Create a story that is peaceful, because your brain is out there. It is wild, it is amazing, it is powerful. Use it for your advantage. And the last solution to overthinking is to build trust in yourself. There's a lot of ways to do this, but often we don't trust ourselves, and that really affects so many things in our lives. It really gets its little tentacles into everything we do. And so when you can build trust in yourself, this really can benefit you in so many ways. One place to start with building trust in yourself, and there's so many ways to do this, but one easy place to start is make yourself a promise. Make yourself a simple, small promise that you can keep, and really emphasize that in your brain. And when you achieve that promise to yourself, well, you kept that promise. That's trust in yourself. And it sounds kind of silly, but it actually, like, this is something scientifically backed. People write about it all the time. Building trust in yourself just by choosing to drink, 32 ounces of water in a day. Maybe that's something you've been wanting to do for a while, and it's pretty simple. Just put your mind to it, make that promise to yourself, and then make it happen. And you will have that little sense of satisfaction of like, yeah, I did that. I told myself I'd do it, and I did it. And it really does feel good. It's something that's very beneficial in so many ways. And generally, just building trust in yourself will really cut down on those overthinking, anxious thoughts. If you go online and you look at things or read books about how to overcome overthinking, people are often told to distract themselves or turn their brain off or completely go against their nature. And thoughtfulness is a power you can work with. It's a tool that you can use for your benefit. Rather than trying to be who you're not, just be yourself in a balanced, healthy way. The next one we're going to talk about is being a fixer. So if you don't know what being a fixer is, this is someone who always wants to fix a situation. You have someone who has an issue, someone who has a problem, and you just want to fix it. And yeah, I've been guilty of this too. It's kind of hard because you just care, you just want to help people, but being a fixer and always trying to fix everyone around you can really stifle their growth. It's a lot of times people have to figure things out on their own, which is a hard pill to swallow. And it also stifles our own growth because we're so concerned with everyone around us and what they're doing. Fixers can also sometimes take on the responsibility of others for their healing, for their issues that we're trying to fix. And, as healers, as people out here trying to help the world, we have to detach from the results. We cannot bet on and expect results. Expectations are a really tricky thing. And so detaching from expectation, detaching from what others do, whether we're giving them advice or not, you just have to let it go. And letting it go is pretty hard, but it's a practice. You practice, you work on it, you get better. One of the most common complaints about fixers is people around them feel very strained, is the word. People feel kind of weird about you always trying to give them advice, always telling them how to fix, how to do, and it's really frustrating. And a lot of us, even fixers, have felt that way about people in the past, probably, towards us. I don't know. I have, for sure, where sometimes you just want to tell somebody what you're going through, and they're like, oh, do this, do that, and you're just wanting to vent. So that leads to our solution. What is the solution for if you're a fixer? Rather than fixing a situation in the way you want to fix it, fix a situation in the way that person wants you to fix it. Okay? So this is a little weird, but ask them. Just directly communicate with them. Ask them, what can I do right now? What can I do for you? Be direct. Who cares? As a person who loves to help people, I'm a very direct communicator. I think it makes everything much less complicated. So, whatever way doesn't feel weird for you, just say, they share their situation. You can tell them, are you looking for feedback, a suggestion, support, or do you just want me to listen? It's that simple. And sometimes people will be a little, they might be a little upset if this is the first time you've said this to them. But if they say, I just want you to listen, then okay, reframe it. That is now your solution. That's your fixing. Your fixing is to fix the problem by just listening and keeping your mouth shut. And I know that's hard for us fixers out here. It is so hard. But just reframe that in your mind. The solution can be just emotionally supporting a person, just listening, saying, wow, that sounds really hard, and your heart may be screaming that you want to tell them all the solutions you may have for it, but don't. Just keep that to yourself. If the energy builds up, you can journal that out, you can write, you can voice memo, you can whatever it is you do to kind of get your emotions out, but you really got to keep that to yourself. It's hard. It took me a long time to get a hold of this one, but just reframe that into the solution that they're looking for. And with your friends, the people around you, your family, this shows that you're a safe person. This shows that you're someone who respects boundaries by asking what those boundaries are before you cross them. And if people get a little weird, you can tell them, you can be very direct. You can say, I know in the past I've tried to fix problems and I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want to upset you. I just want to do what I can for you. What do you need right now? And at the end of the day, you really need to remember, we all need to remember, focus on fixing yourself too. Everyone out here needs fixing, including us. And sometimes the only person we can fix is ourselves. Most of the time, the only person we can really help is ourselves. So just find balance in that. Focus on yourself. Find healing for yourself. Our next natural way of being that people may tell you you need to fix and you can actually work with is being a doer. And, being a doer is someone who's out here feeling like they need to do things and accomplish things to just be enough. And I'm guilty of this as well. People who are doers often are doing far more than people who are not doers or are balanced doers, and it just doesn't feel enough. There's a lot of information, especially online, about being a doer, like becoming a doer rather than a thinker, and it's seen very positively to be a doer. But those of us who have been doers, know that this can run you down. This can be exhausting, and sometimes you just never feel like you're doing enough. And that can be really, really hard. So what is my solution for being a doer? Allow yourself to do, but reframe what a task is, what an accomplishment is for you. Of course, you have to do things throughout your day. You have to go to work. You have to take care of your kids, your dogs, your house. But tasks, accomplishments can be taking a nap, meditating. A task can be sitting outside for 5 minutes. A task can be literally just closing your eyes, sitting in silence and doing nothing. You really have to just reframe what accomplishments and tasks are for you. All of these things, naps, meditation, self-care of any kind, can be an accomplishment. Now, this is something I'm very passionate about. If you're someone who likes to make to-do lists, if you're a to-do lister, I am a to-do lister. And to-do lists can be super helpful. I don't know if I would get anything done without them, but they can also kind of be a little intimidating at times. You have to learn how to make them in a healthy way, in a balanced, healthful way. One of my basic beginner tips is on your to-do list, you might have priorities, you might have certain higher priority tasks. On your to-do list for the day, add 1 or 2 or a few self-care things on your list as things you have to accomplish. Make them top priority, at least one of them. You can have like one big thing, big being a 10-minute meditation, or it might look different for other people. Maybe a big self-care task for you is taking an hour nap. Maybe a big task for you would be taking a really long bath, like whatever it is, but allow yourself one big self-care item per day and then one or two small ones. And of course, everyone has their own balance. You'll find your own balance and best way of doing it. But you really have to add those self-care tasks or you're not going to take care of yourself. At least I didn't. And oftentimes I would get frustrated or stuck on what exactly am I supposed to do for self-care? What am I supposed to do? Or I would have something picked out and then the day comes along and I don't feel like doing that self-care task. So my hack for this is have yourself a nice handy dandy list of self-care things that you could possibly do at some point. Anything that might possibly be within your reach of doing as something to take care of yourself, and just pick from the list as you go. You want to have a wide variety of things. You want to shower, coloring, journaling, reading, watching a video, taking a nap, binging a movie, whatever it is. Have a varied amount of items with varied amounts of time needed for those things. And, you know, you can look lists up online. You can look up lists of all the things that I've done that in the past. I like to adapt, but I have a list of all the possible self-care things I could do, and I pick 1 to 3 of those every single day. And that's really helped me. If I can reframe that as an accomplishment, mark that off my list, that little dopamine hit, that really has helped me to make sure I'm taking care of myself in a day. And I'm honestly so passionate. I've worked so long on perfecting how to make a healthy to-do list. If that's something y'all would be interested in hearing about, learning about, I've thought about making courses on this, making little, I don't know, something. So let me know in the comments, in the wherever you are listening, watching, let me know if that's something you want. I don't know if anybody's interested in that, but I would definitely put that out there. Now, our last natural state of being that we're going to talk about is someone who tends to catastrophize. And this may be the most controversial one here, and I won't say it will work for everyone, but okay, if you don't know what a catastrophizing is, it's a big word, that's when you tend to think of the worst case scenario. Your mind automatically goes to the absolute worst possible thing that could happen. And this is similar to overthinking, right? It's very similar, but it's more like focusing on one or a few awful events, an awful event versus overwhelming amounts of like all sorts of different kinds of thoughts. And they can be both. You can do both at the same time. That's absolutely possible. But the key thing here is also that you're kind of obsessed with this awful event, and this awful event is usually often unrealistic, very unlikely. And it's just kind of, we do this, right? People do this all the time. I've so guilty of this. And now I will say this solution before I put any of these words out, this solution will not work for everyone. It would not work for me a year ago. Anyone who's really susceptible to like thought spirals or kind of like fallen down the rabbit hole of doom, you might want to just kind of focus on the overthinking solutions and work up to this, right? Because this is kind of like hard mode, okay? For me, this catastrophizing kind of way of being started very young. I was raised on the saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. I heard that all the time as a kid and a teen and an adult. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And it's kind of awful. It definitely left a mark on me, but I've really adapted this to focusing on the logical piece. Like where are we logically? Okay, hear me out, right? Hear me out. Your solution, possibly tentatively, if you can work up to this, imagine that awful event. Let yourself think about it. Don't resist it. Don't dive full force. Don't fully engage in this, but allow yourself to kind of just play it out for a minute. Don't obsess over it. And then imagine the best possible situation. Like we're talking like just as unrealistic as your awful ending, your awful event. You know, everything going far more fantastic, and then you find $100 on the way home, and you know, you become whatever. Like imagine the best possible situation. And then weigh the likelihood. Bring in logic, let logic come in and weigh the likelihood. How likely are we to find ourselves at either of these? I think that jarring moment of like looking at how awful my imagined awful event is, and then like making just as an extreme wonderful fantastic event, that like jarring it doesn't match, but they're both equally unrealistic. And that's really helped me to understand just how illogical it is, just how unlikely it is. So allow logic to come in, weigh the likelihood of any of these events happening, and then find the middle of the spectrum. Find where in the middle of this vast spectrum we're going to land. Because, in all honesty, most situations do not end up at the very, very worst. And most situations do not end up at the very best. Allow yourself to notice how good it could be. How good could it be? Notice all of the better things than that awful event. And when you you engage that brain, engage your amazing, imaginative, creative, wonderful, powerful brain, it's such a beautiful tool and a gift. Don't deny yourself that. Allow it to fully work in both directions, the good and the bad, and then let logic come in and say, all right, where logically are we going to end up on this spectrum? We talked about with the overthinking solutions that thinking about each possibility kind of helps you prepare, right? It helps you prepare for what could happen. That's the whole thing about overthinking. You want to prepare. So allow yourself to prepare by thinking of the worst and thinking of the best, and then thinking, okay, where actually are we going to land? We have these awful and wonderful endpoints, and we're probably going to land right here in the middle. And again, don't let yourself obsess, don't let yourself spiral over it, but allow yourself to just see the whole spectrum, the good and the great and the okay, and find where are you likely going to land on that spectrum. Again, that deep thinking, that wonderful, powerful brain, that's your gift. That's where you're skilled. You're so skilled at it, just utilize it. Just put it to work in the right way. Make it work for you. Don't let it rule your life. You're in charge. Use it for the right things. And my biggest message with this whole podcast video is don't let anyone tell you who you should be. Don't let anyone tell you who you should be. You were made this way for a reason. And yes, maybe you were made this way so you could learn and overcome and change. But maybe you were made this way because it's just your natural state and you were meant to adapt. It's who you are. Just find the balance. If you really want to change who you are, take it slow. Small steps. Show yourself compassion. Show yourself love for where you are right now because you deserve it. Thank you all so much for watching to the end of this video. If you like this stuff, follow my channel. I also put out a podcast kind of almost once a week. We're working on the timing. It's fine, but I put out a podcast. It's usually on YouTube. It's also in a bunch of other places. So you can follow me on my socials. You can follow me here. Thanks again. Take care of yourself, and remember, you don't have to do it alone.